Hello everybody, and welcome to a very special video series. You'll be able to tell that this isn't going to be my average video series on my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing something very special. Yes, as the title says, I'm going to be showing you how to export models, 3D models, that you've created yourself from Blender into Train Simulator 2021 we're on at the moment, although this method, technically, should stay relevant for any future versions of Train Simulator that are released. So, quickly a bit of background before we get going. If you didn't know, I model stuff for Train Simulator. I've been modelling for about 3 years now. And the first sort of idea I wanted to do, and the reason why I got into modelling, was because I wanted to try and produce a version of the Victoria line. And I'll show you a comparison on the screen here. The asset on the left is the first asset I ever made, and this was a stopboard to be used on the depot, Northumberland Park. Fast forward probably about a year and a half, 2 years later, I remade the asset, and as you can see, it's a lot better. This really is a case of practice makes perfect. So if you find that you're not producing the assets that you want to make initially, just keep practicing. Honestly, practice is genuinely the best way of improving your skills, because sort of 3 years ago I could not have produced the model that I've got on the right. You know, it's the one on the left is literally just a cylinder and a diamond. That's it. Whereas on the right, there's so much more. There's a ladder. There's a cable that goes up it. Now I'm not trying to big myself up here. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to prove a point that if you keep at it, you'll get better at it. So, if you find that you struggle with this tutorial, honestly, just keep trying. So, about 2 years ago, I had the idea of creating a video series that sort of showed people how to do this. Because when I started modelling, honestly, the resources were terrible. There was basically nothing out there that showed you how to model. There's plenty of Blender tutorials and sort of how to use Blender. There's nothing really out there that explained how to get a model from Blender into Train Simulator. So I struggled around for ages, and it took me about 2-3 months to be able to find the right resources I needed in order to be able to get my first model from Blender into Train Simulator. So it wasn't nice. So my idea here is to try and produce a video tutorial series that shows you how to do everything and gives you as much detail and information as I possibly can. And I'm also going to be doing separate videos which show you different parts of the modelling. So I wanted to do a tutorial on how to texture, how to how to put it into the game. And the whole idea is that you can literally look at these individual videos, work out what part you're stuck on, and then just look at that video which specifies that part. So on top of the videos that I've already created, I'll also be producing more videos at some point, which will describe different things that you can do within Train Simulator. So I intend to do a video on animation, for example. I intend to do a video on how to produce glass, how to do lights, how to make scrolling textures, you know, all of this kind of stuff. Just sort of give you an idea of how to do it. Of course, that's going to take time, and I thought I might as well release these first set of videos now, so that you can at least have an idea, a basic understanding of how modelling is done. Before I go any further, there are a few people I'd like to thank, because I could not have got to the stage I am without these people. So first off, trainsimdev.com, they're a YouTube channel, and trainsimdev.com was really the only place I had to try and learn how to do my modelling. The only resource I could find that was actually good enough to show me what I wanted to do. Dovetail Games have their own set of creative tutorials which you can read, but their read material is honestly terrible, and everybody agrees generally that you basically have to know how the game works inside and out in order to be able to have any understanding of these tutorials. So they're useless. So trainsimdev.com, he produced a video series of how to produce a forward-facing tree. I will put the link in the description to this. But this tutorial was really useful to help me understand how to export a model from Train Sim into the game. A lot of people have produced tutorials that describe how to make a cube, texture it up, and then put it in Train Simulator. The problem with a cube, I found, is that it doesn't show you how a realistic model is to be created. A cube is only really a test object. If you want to produce something more advanced than a cube, then it does start to get a little bit complicated if you're brand new to the modelling. I found it hard to sort of fill in the gaps and work out what I had to do. So, TrainSimDev.com was created a really good series of tutorials. You can go and watch them. Second person I want to thank is JKM Dodger. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description. But he was really the first sort of person who commissioned me into doing some assets. He wanted some TFL rail station signs, and to be honest, if I hadn't have created these TFL rail station signs, I probably wouldn't have carried on with the modelling. Maybe I would have done the Victoria line, but the Victoria line assets I probably would have done rushed, fast. They wouldn't have been anything like they are now. If you didn't know, you can go and look at my release of the Victoria line in the West Anglia Great Northern Route beta, and I'll put a link to our Facebook page and the website. But yeah, without this initial push, I would probably have never got to where I am today. Moving on from that, the second person I made some assets for was Nathan Smith. If you didn't know, this links back to the West Anglia Great Northern Route. He's basically the founder of the project, and he saw my work on the station signs, and I asked him if he wanted me to produce some station signs for his route. He said yes, and I ended up producing the station signs for that. And pretty much from there, I've gone to produce a lot more assets and part of the route for the route. So again, without these first two steps, I probably wouldn't have ended up practicing the modelling. So as well as people I've worked for on asset projects, I also want to thank a few people who've helped me learn stuff. These include Jake Fuller, Oystein, I believe his name is, he's on Discord, and Benemy Swift. Of course, there are plenty of other people who have helped me with little bits here and there throughout. Without these three people, I wouldn't have half of the knowledge that I do with regards to the game. I'm not saying I know everything, but honestly, these people are complete wizards at producing models for Train Simulator. So, they are really nice, they are really helpful, and if you ever need help with anything, try and get in contact with these people. I'll put a link in the description to a couple of the Discord servers that can help. Oystein is in most of them. Jake Fuller and Benamini Swift you can find on Facebook. I'll also put a link to Mr. Fuller's website as well. And finally, I'd just like to thank Alan Thompson Simulation. Alan's developers were actually the first people who actually paid me for an asset. So it's gone from sort of a freeware hobby, if you will, to actually getting a little bit of extra money for it. So, you know, thank you to them for giving me the opportunity of sort of deciding that my assets were good enough to be used in a payware route. They're used in the fen lines. I've got two assets in the fen lines, and I'll put a link in the description to the fen lines if you want to go and have a look. So just very quickly, I'm going to state that all of these methods you're going to find in this tutorial are my own methods or inspired by other people's methods, and they're basically what works for me. You will probably find stuff as you go along that works for you. If you're a beginner modeler, then you'll eventually come to learn how the best way to do stuff is, for you personally. If you're an experienced modeler, then you may turn around and question why I'm doing certain bits. But like I say, these are just the bits that work for me. There are many different methods in order to be able to produce it, and you will develop your own over time. So, without further ado, let's talk about the contents of the tutorial. So, part 1, which is this part, will cover the basic installation and preparation of all the software and plugins which you're going to require for this process. Part 2 will cover the research and modelling, so that will be researching the asset that you want to produce and then modelling it into Blender. Part 3 will cover how to create and apply textures to a model. Part 4 will cover texture baking in the ways that are relevant to Train Simulator, and also preparation for export. And finally, part 5 will be exporting the finished model to Train Simulator. So if you need a specific part to reference, you can find the part easily and watch just that video in order to be able to. Also, feel free to pause the videos at any point if you need any help with anything. Also, if you can't work out something, hit me up on Facebook Messenger or Facebook, Discord, drop a comment in the comment section, and I'll try and help you as best I can. I'm not guaranteeing I'll be able to help everybody with everything, but as best I can, I will give you the support that you need. One final thing is that I'm actually going to release the model that I create in this series, and you can find the links to the download in the description, so that you can compare what you have with mine. So I will release the model file in Blender, I'll release the textures, and I'll release everything unexported and exported, so that you can go and have a look and compare your model against mine, if you feel that you could do with that extra help. And without further ado, I think it's time to actually get into the core of the series, and start making a model for Train Simulator. So, I shall see you in a second. So, welcome to section 1. In the first section, I'm going to be sort of showing you how to install Blender, how to install the plugins that you'll need, show you what sort of bits and equipment, no, well, not equipment, like physically, but you'll need a few programs in order to be able to get started, in Blender. And obviously, I'm not going to hang around. The first one, as you'll be able to tell, is Blender itself. Now, if I go to Blender's website, you'll see that it says Blender 2.92 is out. I don't use Blender 2.92. I use 2.79. Now, this is the version that I downloaded sort of when I started. So this was the current version. Now, I will be using 2.79 in order to be able to show you how to create your own assets. You can use a sort of a later version, but before you consider sort of which version you want, don't go straight into 2.92. The plugin you'll need only goes up, from what I can see, only goes up to 2.8 something, and we'll double check what that is in a second. But as far as I can see, Blender version 2.9 will not work for this purpose. So if you're trying to make models for Train Simulator, then you'll need either version 2.8 or 2.7. Now, I can't speak for version 2.8 because I've never used it, so there may be some slight differences. So if you want to follow exactly what I'm doing, make sure you're using Blender version 2.79, as you can see here. This is the main website, like I say, for Blender. I'll put these links in the description. Any links that you require, I will put in the description. So, the first one will be Blender. The second one will be the download link for Blender 2.79. Of course, you'll see this page, or you should do, unless they change the link, but I can't imagine they would do. There's a bright blue button that's like, yeah, download this, but it's actually the latest version, as you can see. What you actually want to click is download Blender 2.79 B old. Click that, got to latest, hit that, because you obviously want the latest version. And then right down at the bottom, I turned caps lock on, that's fun. Right down at the bottom, you'll want to download this version, 2.79, all that text, Windows 64. Well, you may not. If you're running a 32-bit system, then you'll want to download a 32-bit. If you're on a Linux or OS X, then download the relevant version. But for this process, I'll be using 64-bit version. Now, I've already downloaded this, as you can see at the bottom here. So I shall jump to my downloads folder, and you will see these two folders are the two that you'll need. I'll explain this one in a second. But first off, you've obviously got your Blender download. Open the Blender download, open the next folder inside. I believe you simply just run the exe and that installs it. I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs. If you need help installing Blender itself, you can look at YouTube videos out there. This is not going to be a Blender tutorial, this series. This will be a tutorial of how to create an asset for the game in Blender. Now, you will pick up bits and pieces of how to use Blender, but I'm not going to be doing a Blender tutorial. So if there's anything you need help with, look around on YouTube and see if you can find some more information about that. So of course you'll run the exe. I'm not going to do that again. Like I say, I don't need to. I've already installed it. And when you load Blender for the first time, you should be met with something like this. You'll have a cube, a light, and a camera. So once you're at this stage, you're ready to model. You're almost ready to sort of do everything you need to, but you're not quite there. If you use Blender as downloaded, you will not be able to export anything in a file type that is recognised by Train Simulator. For that, you'll need a plugin. Now, this is where the fun begins. Well, I say the fun, it's not really the fun. The fun is actually modelling, but you know. Firstly, go up to File. You want to go down to System, User Preferences, sorry. And on this dot, you'll want to find Add-ons. Okay? So from here, you'll see the add-ons list. So the one you're looking for is this one. Import Export Bridge TS Exporter IGSIA. This file here, this one will not exist in your current in your fresh downloader Blender. This will not exist. What you'll need to do, you'll need to hop over to the third link, which will take you to this webpage. Jujumatic.free.fr. As you can see, Juju94 web pages. This is the exporter that we're going to be using for Train Simulator in order to get an asset from Blender into Train Sim. There are a couple of other ones out there, but this one, from what I found, is the best. There's an older one. It doesn't work all that great. This one works really well, from what I found. I've had a few issues with it in the past, but overall, it's alright. So, click the link, this link in the description, bring you to this page. Obviously, it'll explain all about what's in the download. Also, join the Discord server. If you need help, join the Discord server if you have Discord, because it's actually a good place. There's a few people on there, which I think I've already shouted out, who have given me help along the way. But yeah. So if you got version 2.8 of Blender, you want to download this version. If you got 2.7 like me, you'll want to click download this. Now I've already downloaded this again, so go through the necessary steps to download that. I shall go back to my downloads folder, and in here we get a 7-zip file. First off, what you want to do, right click on that. You need 7-zip installed. I'm not going to show you how to install 7-zip. You can look elsewhere for that. We're going to go across, we're going to find export to the file name, and then we're going to export it. Click on the file, click on this. This file is pretty much what you're after. Now, at this point, you can leave it in your downloads folder, but I would recommend putting it in your Blender folder. Now, if I jump back into my user preferences on Blender, you will see that this file is currently installed to Gemstones37, app data, roaming, yada yada yada, and then it brings you up to the file it's downloaded at. Now, you may have your Blender installed into a different place. But if your Blender is installed into app data roaming, the easiest way to get to it is to come down to your search bar, type %app, that's not app data %. Click on this file here, top. That'll bring you to your app data roaming. Once you've got to this stage, you can click Blender Foundation, Blender 2.9, Scripts, Add-ons, and then this is where your folder will be. So you won't have this. I don't think you'll have these. You won't have any of these ever either. It may even be empty. But what you're going to want to do once you've found this add-ons file in this, go back to your download, right click that, same thing again, extract that, drag that across into there. Now I'm not going to do it because, again, it might mess some settings up for me, but if you drag that across to there, that should install Bridge to your Blender. Quick note in editing is that I think you have to click Install Add-ons from File, and then find that Bridge folder you've just copied into your directory in order to make it appear in the list. Once you've done that, you may need to close that file, System Preferences, or User Preferences, go back to Add-ons, scroll down until you find Bridge, click the tick, and then you'll need to link your TS install directory. If you don't know where your TS is installed, you can simply go to Steam, right click on Steam, Properties, wait for that to load, Local Files, Browse, and then this will bring you to this page. Copy that. This should be where your what you're looking for is the file which your actual application is installed. So it should be railwork64.exe. Wherever this file is installed, I'm pretty sure that's the one that you want. So go back to there, paste that Control V into there, press enter, IGS exporter, okay, that should be it. There we go. Now close that. You're ready to export, or you're ready to sort of start modeling properly. There's just two more things I suggest. Well, there's one more thing I suggest and one more thing that probably should be done before you model, which I'll go on to now. So the next thing you're going to want to do once you've got your Blender properly installed is create somewhere to save your files. Like you're not going to want to have files absolutely everywhere on your computer because you'll never find them. Now what I've done is I've actually created a file on my external hard drive which I've called Blenders. Some of them can be quite large, so I do sort of suggest if you've not got much storage space on your computer, then you sort of create it on an external hard drive. The other advantage with doing it on an external hard drive is if you change computer, or you need to get a new computer, or, you know, you'll go to a friend's house and you've got to do it, for example, you can take your hard drive with you, and obviously then you can, you've got all of your models ready to go if you're working on something at the time. So yeah, create a file. The other thing I would recommend is organize your file better than I have. I've got stuff absolutely everywhere. Like you said, it's all sort of named the same, but it's a bit of a mess. Don't do a me. Just organize it from the offset properly. This was the one thing I failed to do. So, the final step that you'll need to take before you start your modeling journey is to create your source file. So, we come back to your Railworks directory. Obviously in this, for me, wherever yours is, you can do the Steam apps thing in Steam. Come down to your Railworks folder. There should be a file called source. If there isn't, you want to make it. Name it the exact same as that, because I believe it doesn't. It probably wouldn't recognize it if it's not the same name as that. So yes, name that source. Open up your source file, and within here, you'll find it empty initially. Unless you've already done modeling before, of course, in which case you may find something in it. But if you're brand new, this folder will be empty. What you're going to want to do, right-click, new file, add a folder, and then this will be your developer name. This is the folder which you're going to be creating all of your assets in. So, I don't know, if your name is, I don't know, Dan TDM or The Legend 27, or, you know, whatever you go by, even if you go by John Smith as your developer name, this is what you're going to want to be doing, because this folder will appear, whatever you name this folder, it will appear under assets / that name that you made that folder. So make a name that you're happy with. I've got a few folders because I've done work in other products and for other people. But you're going to want to create your own folder, and generally you're going to want to stick to that single folder. If you now open up that folder you've created, this folder will obviously also be empty. For me, I've got a whole ton of assets, so I've got stuff absolutely everywhere. Again, this is where it becomes apparent that I didn't organise, because all of my stop marker pack, if you've seen my website, you'll know I did a stop marker pack. All of the stop markers are in their own individual folders, and it takes an age to scroll through. Don't do that. Try and create something that's reasonable. So, for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to quickly make a new folder. And I'm going to call it tutorial. This folder name doesn't matter. It can be absolutely anything you want it to be. I'm going to open up that. And now I'm going to create another new folder. Inside here, I am going to put assets. Now, the name of this folder, again, is completely irrelevant. And the number of folders inside this folder is irrelevant. This folder is the specific one you want to do. For example, this one here, this product here, it has a single folder and then all of the modeling information inside it. Whereas something along the lines of the tramway folder has signals, has scripts, has heads, has, you know, there are several tiers of a folder. So if we go back to our tutorial folder, for this one, I have decided I'm going to be making a sign, a road sign. So I shall make assets. It'll probably be a miscellaneous. So I'll probably name this one miscellaneous. Open that. Street name. Again, these folders do not matter what they're called, because if your asset is different to what I'm making, then you'll have different names in your folders. Again, the number of folders doesn't matter either, as long as you have one folder at the start. Right, so very quickly then, I've jumped over to my iCloud, because that's sort of where my photos are taken. And this is the asset I'm going to be making today as part of the tutorial. And I'll get into sort of how to find out information and stuff about assets in the next video. But as you can see, I'm making a sign for Teal Close. Now, this is a sign that's outside of Turkey Street Station, so it's going to be useful for the West Anglia Great Northern Route when I come to build Turkey Street around there. So, that's the asset I'm going to be making. Once I've got to the point where I'm ready to name my thing, ready to name my asset, I'll make a new folder, call it Teal Close, and open that folder. Inside here, you're going to want to make a single folder and call it Textures. That folder name does matter. This textures name here does actually matter. If I go back to my James Class 37 folder and I find if I find a product that actually exists, the important folders in here now are this one and this one. Now I'm going to put a download link in the description. This will probably be the last download link. So if you click on that, you can download these two folders. Now, I'm going to copy these, because like I say, I've already got them ready. Go back to my tutorial folder, follow through all of the names, and I'm going to paste them here. I'm going to rename this one to something more appropriate to my asset that I should be making, and leave the underscore IGSE xmod file 2. Now, I'm pretty sure that this file here doesn't actually matter whether you have it or not. Because if I open up the contents, I believe I can do it with Notepad++. There we go, yeah. What you'll see here, you'll see Materials Alpha Test Mode. Everything else is completely irrelevant, to my knowledge. You'll want to change these and these names later on. I'll explain how these are named later on when it comes to it. Like I say, I'm not convinced that this folder actually has any meaning towards your modelling, but it's there if you need to change it. And that's it. That's it for part 1. You have your Blender installed, you have your plugin installed, you have your save file ready to go, and you have your development folder ready, set up, and all prepared, ready to make your asset. Join me again for the next part, where I will be showing you how to sort of start doing your research, and then how to sort of get measurements in order to be able to make your model, along with maybe starting to do a little bit of modelling. So I hope you'll join me for the next one. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!